we gather together all the news and rumors surrounding the new devices from Google's Pixel smartphones, as well as a few things we'd like to see when the Pixel 7 arrives. Google formally confirmed the incoming Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro during the opening keynote of its 2022 developer conference on the 11th of May, despite promising that both are coming this fall and showing off a few official images. However, we still don't know anything more about what this duo are set to offer. Over the past few generations, Google has settled on an October release for the main Pixel devices, with the cheaper versions, such as the Pixel 4a and Pixel 5a 5G appearing in the following August. There was also the Pixel 4a, so if Google sticks to this pattern, you should expect the new Pixel 7 handsets to make their debuts in October 2022 alongside the new Android 13 software. That's exactly what leaker John Prosser has predicted, adding that the 7 and 7 Pro will launch alongside the Pixel Watch a few months after the upcoming Pixel 6a. So, if Google sticks to this pattern, you should expect the new Pixel 7 handsets to make their debuts in October 2022 alongside the new Android 13 software. That's exactly what leaker John Prosser has predicted, adding that the 7 and 7 Pro will launch alongside the Pixel Watch a few months after the upcoming Pixel 6a. The price for the standard Pixel seems to have settled around the $599 mark, while the Pro tier introduced in 2021 pushes things a bit higher. We would expect to see Google stick with these prices going forward, although the worldwide chip shortages and increased cost of manufacturing caused by COVID could see them creep up when the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro are released. Hopefully not. Obviously, with the release of the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro still relatively recent, there's little in the way of solid news about what you can expect to see in their successors, but details are slowly beginning to trickle out, some officially from Google. With the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, Google introduced an entirely new design language for its smartphones. Gone were the plastic chassis and more generic aesthetics of the Pixel 5, replaced with premium construction and a bold look that featured a raised strip on the back that acted as a housing for the cameras. The company made a surprise drop of a few Pixel 7 images at I/O 2022. And based on those, it isn't trying to reinventing the wheel with the Pixel 7 range. Most manufacturers like to keep a consistent aesthetic across a few generations, Apple's iPhones being the most obvious example. Unsurprisingly, both phones feature a similar design, albeit with a slightly tweaked camera module that now wraps directly into the phone's frame and highlights the individual sensors in a more prominent fashion. A report from CarP adds that the standard Pixel 7 will measure 155.6 by 73.1 by 8.7 millimeters, making it slightly smaller in every dimension, a welcome change from the chunky Pixel 6. According to OnLeaks with some help from SmartPre, rough dimensions for the 7 Pro of 163 by 76.6 by 8.7 millimeters make it pretty close in size to the 6 Pro, though ever so slightly thinner. We've had more looks at the two phones thanks to a string of production prototypes that have popped up on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. A few Reddit users have recounted discovering or even buying the prototype phones, which have since mostly stopped working, presumably as Google identifies the phones and remotely shuts them down. None of the postings reveal a lot that we didn't already know about the phones, but do give you a look at the handsets from different angles and in a less polished form than the pristine marketing materials. The current Pixel 6 and 6 Pro feature, respectively, 6.4 AMOLED and 6.71 LTPO AMOLED displays. Both support HDR10+, but the Pro version comes with a 120Hz refresh rate and a higher resolution than its more budget-friendly brethren. OnLeaks report predicts that the 7 could drop screen size down as far as down to 6.2 in, while the 7 Pro will either stay the same or jump slightly to 6.8 in. We don't expect to see too many other display changes. Display industry expert Ross Young reports something similar, a drop to a 6.3 in display for the 7, with the Pro staying at the same 6.7 in size. He adds that the Pro at least will again use 120Hz LTPO AMOLED tech, though doesn't specify whether or not we'll see that trickle down to the regular 7. It looks unlikely to, though. 9to of Google dug into some Android open source project code and found display drivers intended for the new Pixel models. They reveal that the Pixel 7 will feature a 1080x2400 display at up to 90Hz, while the Pixel 7 Pro will have a 1440x3120 display at a 120Hz refresh rate. Those are the exact same specs as the 6 series models, and the code even suggests that Google will be using the exact same Samsung panels. So don't expect any year-on-year change to the displays, except for the 7-second screen getting a little smaller. We know that Google is working on designs for an under-display selfie camera. The company has filed at least 2 patents so far, the most recent of which we've included here, discovered by Let's Go Digital. It shows broadly the same sort of tech we've seen used for similar cameras in the likes of the ZTE Axon 35G and Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. We don't expect Google to use this tech in the Pixel 7 series, and it's more likely to be seen in the rumored Pixel Fold or future phones like the Pixel 8 and beyond. Second-generation Google Tensor chips. One of the main talking points with the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro was Google's use of its proprietary Tensor chips. Much like Apple and Samsung, which use their A-series and Exynos chips in their flagships, Google has taken the big step into controlling the design and production of the processors fitted to its devices. Samsung manufactured the original Tensor, and is already reported to be ready to mass-produce the Tensor 2 using a 4nm process. We might not be getting a serious performance jump though, or at least not from the CPU. Based on bootlogs from a bricked Pixel 7 Pro prototype, the Google News Telegram group managed to extract one key piece of information. The chip uses Cortex-A55 cores. That matters in a few ways. Firstly, those are the same efficiency cores used by the first Tensor chip, so apparently haven't been upgraded. More importantly, the A55 is based on ARM-8 architecture, not the more recent ARM9 that's used in the likes of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and MediaTek Dimensity 9000 chips. The two architectures can't coexist on the same chip, so if the A55 cores are in use, that means the whole CPU is limited to the older architecture. And since Google had mostly used the last ARM-8 cores, that means it can't upgrade from the Cortex-X1 Prime cores either. Outside of tweaking clock speeds, the only CPU upgrade available to Google is the small jump from its two Cortex-A76 performance cores to the slightly improved Cortex-A78. That means that the Tensor 2 will likely only have marginal CPU improvements over the first gen, if any. It still leaves Google room to upgrade GPU performance though, not to mention machine learning, the company's clear focus with the first Tensor. So we still expect to see a few upgrades, they just won't be to raw compute performance. 9 to 5 Google has spotted the codename Cloudripper that is linked to a model number GS201 that could represent the new silicon. The same site has since found further details, with more codenames, Cheetah, Panther, and Ravenclaw, linked to a Samsung modem, likely the Exynos Modem 530, which will presumably be used alongside the new Tensor chip. 9 to 5 Google reports that Cheetah and Panther refer to the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, with new Big Cat codenames, after birds and fish were used for previous generations. The third codename, Ravenclaw, is believed to be more than a simple Harry Potter reference. This is potentially a mashup of the Pixel 6 Pro's Raven codename with the feline claw theme of the new hardware, perhaps referencing a testing device that uses the new Tensor 2 chip inside Pixel 6 Pro hardware. On the other hand, the 9 to 5 Google report into display drivers mentioned above also turned up a third device, and some are beginning to speculate that this AMG10 in the drivers may actually be a third Pixel 7 model, perhaps a Pixel 7 Ultra, or more likely next year's Pixel 7a. No specs have leaked about such a phone, and Google didn't tease one when it revealed the 7 series. There's no benchmarking that's been spotted as of yet for any of these devices, so we don't know how the second gen will compare to their predecessors, but we would expect Google to work on performance enhancements as well as energy efficiency, like any iteration of processors. Both the leaked and subsequent official renders corroborate a report we've seen from Ms. Hal Rahman on the XDA developers site that the Pixel 7 is sticking with only 2 rear cameras. Code he analyzed for the Google Camera app, just before the release of the Pixel 6 devices, shows that a 2022 Pixel phone will most likely have an ultra-wide camera, as with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, but doesn't indicate the presence of a telephoto camera. This is the same as the Pixel 6, with the telephoto reserved just for the Pro model, but in 2022 that feels a little underwhelming compared to many potential rivals. There's good reason to think Rahman's code dive might not actually refer to the Pixel 7 though. For one, while the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro had individual code names, this phone is only listed with one. That's a name that other sources have linked with the rumored Pixel foldable phone rather than the 7. So this may instead be a hint at that phone's camera spec.